Hi, everybody. So I'm back again, and we're talking still about the area of the Maghreb. And if you look at my little notes on the side here, you see that the term Sahara actually comes from Arabic, which originally it was referred to as the desert in Arabic. And the area of the Sahara Desert is really big. In fact, you can take the entire continental United States and put it into the desert. So kind of wrap your head around that, how big that is, and then think of the whole continent of Africa. And you can see how huge the continent of Africa is. We also know that for thousands of years, we've had trade routes that have crossed the desert. And these have been set up, these were set up very, very early on, and we'll be looking at some of those. So the Sahara Desert itself was not always so arid, so dry. At one time, during the geological phase that began around 11,000 BC and lasted for some 8,000 years, it was actually a savanna area, grasslands, and we have animals roaming in it and people living in it. But then after around 3000 BC, we start to have droughts, and the desert begins to emerge from these continuous droughts. This ends up pushing people out of this area. Some go to the north, south, east, west. But we know that the people were there mainly because of the artwork that we have found from this area. And so we look at this area again as the Maghreb that I'm showing you here again. And this would be what's divided today between Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia. And the term Berber actually comes from Greek, from ancient Greek. And all the Greeks referred to people that weren't Greek as barbarians. And so that's actually the root of the term Berber. So the Berber people are actually very ethnically diverse, as I explained in my last video, but they're put into this group and connected because of their common languages that they speak. They're also related to ancient Egypt. And we'll see in a minute that we do believe that there was a connection, or at least trade routes, that were set up between the Berbers and the ancient Egyptians. So we have some very old art from this area, as I said, and this is referred to as rock art. Some of it's in caves, but mainly in this area, it's just on open areas of rock, and it's so dry that the rock art has been preserved. And we really have mainly it being incised or scratched into the area of the Sahara Desert. But we have this kind of art found from the Canary Islands in the west to the Red Sea in the east, from the Atlas Mountains in the northern area of Morocco to the highlands of central Chad. And here's my first example of the rock art. And this is referred to as the large wild fauna style. So take a minute and see if you can figure out, what is this? Or what are these? They are actually animals, and they are animals that we think of when we think of Africa. Giraffes and elephants. They're overlapping one another, so it's a little hard to see, but here's a person. So we can see that the animals are actually approximately the correct size. So let me trace these animals so you can see them better. This is the first giraffe's head. Here's the nose, the eye, the mouth. We go down the neck into the patterning, the beautiful patterning of the giraffe, and here's one of the legs of the giraffe. You'll notice the feet are a little on the large side. This is typical of the large wild fauna style. Here is the head of the second giraffe, the nose, the eyes, the ears, the neck going into the body and the back leg of that giraffe. And our third animal is an elephant. Here's the elephant's head, and it's turned. So we're getting like a 3/4 view of the elephant head. So here's a trunk, the head, one ear, and then the other ear behind. And then the body of the elephant is turned towards us. So here's the front leg, and then we have a back leg over here. It gets a little confusing, to say the least. This is in what used to be a stream bed, but it's dried up because this has become a desert region. So this giraffe, as it bends its head down, maybe is supposed to be taking like a drink of water from the stream bed. We have this appearing sometime or being created sometime after 8,000 BC. Why are the animals overlapping like this? Well, we believe that since at this time, this is the Paleolithic period, so we have hunters and gatherers, so they're nomadic. And it could be that they're returning to this area year after year, that this was just a really good hunting site. So it could be marking that, or it could be something like hunting magic, where they are involved in a very early form of religion. But this is really probably way too simplistic for me to say this. And it's something that is, I'm sure, much more complex, but without a written language and very little information to go on, it's kind of hard to come up with a definitive answer. Here's another image of the large wild fauna style. And here we have a rhino that's turned upside down. And then we have here and here, these creatures that have human bodies, but animal heads. And we believe they're supposed to be jackal heads. And again, same area. And again, after the year 8,000 BC. Can you think of another culture that has human bodies and animal heads depicted in their art? If you're saying ancient Egypt, you would be correct. And in fact, this is one of the reasons we say that we are pretty sure that ancient Egypt and the Berbers had some kind of connection. It could have just been a trade route. We're not sure. But in fact, this kind of art in the Sahara Desert, we're pretty sure predates the ancient Egyptian art that has this. So it could be that these people are actually very long ago, related in some way ethnically. We're not 100% sure, and it's very hard to date this rock art. So until we can get definitive dates on it, it's pretty impossible to tell. So here's an example of the god Horus, which is one of the most well-known of the ancient Egyptian gods. And so here you can definitely tell human body, and then it has the falcon head. So when we look at the Egyptian art, we'll see Horus many, many times. All right, so this is the first part of this little video series for this PowerPoint.